Hello, I'm John Selleck. Today's August the 3rd, 1997. I've set up something of a little studio in the balcony room of my home at 2043 West Magna Carta Place in Baton Rouge, so you could see what I look like and see part of the setup I'm using to copy all of this material from my mother's cedar chest onto video so that my children and others can learn and hear from me what I know about the Selleck and Kroger families. I'm not sure where to begin, so I'll just start with myself. I was born on July 27th, 1928. I had a birthday just about a week ago. I'm 69 years old. This is the announcement of my birth from the Baton Rouge newspaper. My mother saved a lot of newspaper clippings, and you'll be seeing more of them. This is one of a number of pictures of me as a baby, as a small person. At the time I was born, my daddy was an agent with the Illinois Central Railroad and was stationed at Gramercy, which is down the road a bit from Baton Rouge. And here's another. Here I am with my mother. I think this was taken at the house where we lived in Gramercy. This is not a very good picture. It's from an album of pictures that my mother kept, mostly pictures of me and my sister Courtney. This is me and my dad. I'm afraid I must have been in some respects a disappointment to him because I never became the hunter or fisherman that he was. And I didn't like very many things that he liked to do, I'm afraid. Well, there I am having a bath on the porch at Gramercy. I think the black woman holding me there was named Teen. Of course, I'm not sure. All of this is from memory. There's no one for me to ask anymore. This is in Baton Rouge, I think, on Oleander Street. It could be, though, behind my grandfather's house on North Boulevard. On the left of the screen, I think, is Marie Louise, my first cousin, and her sister Celeste is on the right. Again with the two Kroger girls. Marie Louise is now named Gardner. She married an Air Force officer at Harding Field during the war, and she's still alive and lives in Albuquerque. Celeste married Ron Cernick, her second marriage, and she lives in Houston. More photos of the same event. Look at that old car in the background. I know that is Celeste with me on the left of the screen, but I don't know who that is on the right. I think we're back in Gramercy. I'm assuming that these pictures are in chronological order. I guess that's the way my mother kept them. It's kind of fun doing this. I haven't really looked at these pictures in a long, long time. One of the nice things about putting these on video is if you get bored with it, you just put the tape on fast forward. Somewhat later on my left is my sister Courtney, who was born on March 27th, 1930. There I am with my dad, who's all dressed up in a suit with a vest and a bow tie, a cigar in his mouth. Another of me and Courtney Louise. Here's another one of me. I pulled back on the video so you could see the garbage can over there with ER on it. I think I'm at my grandmother's house because her name was Kroger. Okay, there's one of Dad and Courtney. Probably taken in 1930 or 31. I don't recognize this as being myself, but I guess it is. I don't know. There's another one of those old cars in the background. Love to have it today, that car, I mean. That's got to be John there and Courtney. Daddy's back. I must say that my father was a nice-looking man. I do believe I recognize the location of this photograph. This was on Florida Street, about 17th Street. I recognize a church in the background in the upper right. It's that building over there with the stairway going up and the old cars parked in front of it. That's near where Gottschall's or Maison Blanc is today. Okay, now we can have a little history. Holding Courtney is George Hayne, the man after whom I was named, my middle name that is. George Hayne was a police dispatcher in New Orleans, and he retired to Clinton, where he died. Another picture of me and Courtney and Uncle George. Looks like I was trying to get away from him. Much later, I'm pretty sure this was taken on Westmoreland Street in Ogden Park, where my parents built a house. The house, by the way, is still standing. There's Daddy again on Westmoreland with two of his dogs. He loved dogs. I have other pictures of Dad which I will show later, but I want to finish going through this particular album. Doesn't appear that I'm too happy in this picture. Well, I know this is the house on Westmoreland because I remember that willow tree across the street at the neighbor's, and I remember that the garage was in the back behind that gate there. Oh, technically this is a terrible picture. Celeste and Marie Louise, or Mary Louise as we called her. Looks like little John was pouting in that picture. I think this is an event at Mrs. Laura Callahan's kindergarten. In case you can't find me, I'm that little guy right there. There I am with my little red wagon at the house on Westmoreland. I think this is again the kindergarten, Laura Callahan's kindergarten. I'm not sure I'm even in the picture. If I had to guess, I'd say this was taken at Audubon Park in New Orleans. If that's the case, that would be Lake Pontchartrain, but I'm just guessing. Now, isn't he cute? A rare picture of my mother and father in front of the house on Westmoreland. Father and son. Daddy has one of those damn cigarettes that I think must have cost him his life. He died at only 53. We're going to jump back in time a little bit here. We finished the album and we're slightly out of chronological order. I think we're still in Gramercy. A picture of me in front of the house. There's some writing in my dad's hand on back of this photograph, and I'm going to turn it over and read it to you. I recognize my daddy's handwriting there. The darn tree hides the house. About all you can see is sun. And then in parentheses my name written by my mother. For a long period of my early life I was called Son rather than John. I remember at some point I told him I wasn't everybody's son and I wanted to be called John. Another picture apparently taken the same day. And in this one you can see the house better, the house the dad referred to. Well, here's a formal portrait of little John Hayne, taken by Robinson Photo. Here is another professionally done photograph showing me and my cousins, my first cousins. This would be Celeste Kroger. This is Jack Kroger. This is my sister Courtney. This is Johnny B., John B. Kroger. This is Marie Louise Kroger. And of course this is John. Here's the same group in the same setting but seated differently. Next to me are the children of John Kroger, my mother's brother. This is Celeste, this is Marie Louise, and this is Jack. Right here is my sister Courtney Louise, and this is Johnny B., the son of Herman Kroger, another of my mother's brothers. This photograph of me and Courtney was taken, I do believe, by the LSU Lakes on Dalrymple Drive. Of course, they didn't have color film in those days, and this has been artificially colored. They would print it in a sepia tone and then color it by hand. Another of me and Courtney. Professionally done. Some studio here in Baton Rouge. That photograph you just saw made it into the Louisiana State University Alumni News in July of 1932. Here it is on page 13, Co-eds and Cadets of Tomorrow. Here is part of what the Alumni News had to say about me and my sister. The two children are John Hayne, 4, and Courtney Louise, 2, both mischievous youngsters full of life and up and doing, as is their mother. John's tastes run to boats and airplanes, while Courtney prefers dolls and a dip and a swim in the pool. These two little visitors to the campus are great favorites with the student body, a popularity which may be a forerunner to greater popularity someday when they themselves are attending classes on the campus. We jump ahead now a number of years for this picture of me and my two cousins. On the left of the screen is Johnny B. Kroger, and on the right is Jack Kroger. All three of us were named John after our grandfather, John Kroger, who died when I was about 2 weeks old. Still later on, here's a picture of me in my Catholic High sweater. I attended Catholic High from the 3rd grade through the 11th, with the exception of the 4th and 5th grades when I went to St. Peter's Parochial School in Reserve. In those days, Catholic High accepted boys from the 3rd grade through high school, and we were supposed to go to the 1st and 2nd grade at St. Joseph's Academy, but I had a problem with those nuns, so I went to Miss Richardson's private school in the 1st grade and to Dufrock School in the 2nd grade. Another of me taken I know not where. I don't know who that is in the background either. That's Courtney, my sister. Again, I don't know where this was taken or when. Here I am as a young man, the picture probably taken in 1944 or 1945, somewhere in there. I remember that jacket. I have one today which looks kind of like it. And this will be the last one of me in this group. I'm going to go to my father's family, my father next. This was taken at Spring Hill College in Mobile. I was kicked out at LSU because my grades were so bad, and my parents sent me to Spring Hill to clean up my act, which I did. This is the earliest photograph we have of my father. This one taken when he was 13 months old on April 25th, 1901. He was born on March 25th, 1900. On the back of the picture is a notation of his age and the date it was taken, done in his mother's hand. His mother, of course, was Molly Ditton. His father was James Selleck. We'll get to them later on. This is the back of the picture. This is a book that was used as a diary by Molly Ditton Selleck. I don't know what the 3M11 on the front means. I don't know the significance of the writing at the top, SS Louisiana, July 24th, 1900. I have heard that my New Orleans ancestors worked on the river, that even there was a riverboat captain, but I don't know if that's true or not. I don't really know what they did. This is the first entry in the book. The following pages are written by the boy's mother, who for her own gratification would like in future years to leave some written mementos of his babyhood, and probably the boy, when he gets older, will enjoy reading about himself. On the next page she writes, Robert Courtney Selleck, born 4 a.m. Sunday, March 25th, 1900. I was such a long time selecting a name that his uncle George Hayne nicknamed him Muggins. The first outside visitor was Mrs. E.J. Brew of Fincastle, Virginia, and then she lists other ladies who called. Page 3, the first tooth made its appearance January 23rd, 1901. weaned at 6 months, was first in short clothes about September 1900. After being weaned, his nourishment was cow's milk weakened with well-cooked cornmeal broth. And she goes on. Made his first attempt at walking with assistance in April of 1901, and can now, in later April, stand alone and take a few steps. I recognize Aunt Pet. I remember her. Aunt Pet Selleck made and gave a very pretty dresses, bonnets, etc. Mrs. J.M. Hall, parentheses, Nana, a white cashmere cloak. I wonder if that's the same Mary Hall who lived in Covington, Kentucky, near Cincinnati. I notice a reference on this page to Aunt Lizzie. I remember her. She was Elizabeth Whitney, and I remember that she had a house on Park Boulevard in Baton Rouge when I was a child. The final entry in the diary was made by Molly Ditton on page 6. Is as healthy a boy as is possible, has 11 teeth, and is now cutting his stomach tooth. Then the handwriting changes to that of my father's father, James. September 9th, '02. I do not understand why my darling wife ended the above so abruptly. Apparently she was improving and had strong hopes that she might get well. My darling son, you are now without your sweet blessed mother. A little over 3 months since she left us. I do not know how we can do without her. You are to remember that you had one of the noblest mothers that ever blessed this world. She was good, loving, honest, bright, thoughtful, and incapable of a mean act. There is more, but I won't read the rest of it. I will, however, preserve this book among my things so that if any of you want to read it, you may do so. The next picture I have of my father was this one. He has written on the bottom, Camille Foltz and RCS. I don't know who Camille was. Another picture labeled by my father, Camille Foltz, RCS, and Mrs. Braun. I zoomed back so we could see most of the rest of the picture. A badly faded picture of Dad. I don't know where it was taken or when. I like this picture. Dressed in his white suit with a vest and a tie. I would guess that this picture was taken in La Place at the train station, or the depot as we used to call it. The event, the shipping of some produce, some shallots or whatever. My father is the one on the far left. This one taken at 4424 Whitehaven Street, a house that my parents bought in 1944. Here he is working on his camp at Port Vincent, which he never got to enjoy. zoom back for another look at the camp. There's Dad in about 1951 or 52, somewhere in there, with his car that he wrecked as a result of being drunk. Daddy had a drinking problem. I think he must have been an alcoholic. Some of my memories of him as a child were sitting in front of bars for endless hours waiting for him. The grandfather with his first grandson, the only grandchild he got to know, he died before Kathy was born. Here is his death notice as it appeared in the Morning Advocate on September 24th of 1953. We're in New Orleans at Greenwood Cemetery. We came down here hoping to find out more about the Sellecks, but this is all we see. This is 275 Pine. We had hoped there would be some markers or something other than this, but that appears to be all there is. Among the many interesting documents I found in my mother's things was this receipt here for lot number 575 in Greenwood Cemetery. That's the plot you just saw. This is dated April 16th, 1864. Received New Orleans from Mr. J.R.S. Selleck, $15 for lot number 575, Greenwood Cemetery. I can't make out the name of the person who signed this, the secretary, but he does sign for John McCaffrey, the treasurer. We have just a few pictures of my father's ancestors. This, according to the writing on the back, is James Selleck, his father. I don't know what the uniform is or anything about it. If we turn it over, we can see the autograph on the back, your cousin James Selleck, January 1st, 1884. And that's a note of my mother's, R.C.'s father. And here's the lower part of the back of the picture. Here is another photograph that appears to have been taken at a later time, also labeled James Selleck. And this is the back of that photograph in my mother's handwriting. The LKS down there is by me to indicate that my mother wrote it. Turning the back of the picture on its side, we can see it was taken by E. Simon, Portraits, 183 Canal, New Orleans, near the Grand Opera House. Another photograph, which appears to be about the same age as the last one, but taken by a different photographer.